Hello and welcome to the BA News Show, your weekly news show every Friday at 5 o'clock with your hosts, me, Rich and Tabs.
Hello everybody!
Quite a few news stories to get through this week, but before we dive into that, let's ask Tabs, what have you been playing this week?
So, it may come as no surprise to people who've played The Witcher 3 in recent weeks. I've been trying to get into it. Well, it's in my person now. That's probably the best way I could describe it. I've been absolutely thrashing it. Still in Novigrad, just getting into the completionist mode of doing all the missions before I move on to, I think it's Skellig is the next place. So yeah, absolutely thriving, under my skin. It is a fantastic game, can't deny it. Oh, and we've also played a little bit, Rich, as I hand over to you, GTA 5 Online.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Played, that's pretty much the thing I've been playing most of this week. Yeah, some quite longish sessions on that, haven't we, Tabs? Mainly just trying to find our feet on what is the boggling, unexplained world of Grand Theft Auto 5 Online, where they just don't explain anything and you have to basically find everything out for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for giving players agency and not bogging you down with big, hefty tutorials, but this is something else entirely, isn't it? It's suck it and see to the harshest extent, and then on top of that, you know, the reliability of the network, whether that's because the game's just been made free on Epic Games Store. Well, it can take, as we've discussed, Rich, 30-40 minutes just to jump into some gameplay at times.
Yeah, to the point where you're moving from one mission to the next and you almost think, oh, should we just play this mission that we've got almost set up here? Like, when you finish a mission, you get a screen where you can choose another mission. Well, sometimes the missions on that are not ones you want to do, but because when you don't do that, it sort of loads out and then back in again and can just throw you out of the game. So yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare, but I'm sure they'll be well on top of trying to fix that, and I'm sure when the hype cools down a little bit, it'll be hopefully all good again and we can press on with the heists, which we're hoping to do some streaming of later on down the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's technical issues, isn't it? So we might just be, end users who aren't quite appreciating the struggles to get it to work. But either way, when you do get going, it is very exciting, very enjoyable, very dynamic, I would say.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, let's get into the news. So, first news piece this week, Silent Hill. So, I think almost every other week in the past few weeks we've been talking Silent Hill rumours. Well, it seems some of the Silent Hill rumours, not what we were expecting, has come into fruition. So, it appears there's going to be basically a Silent Hill expansion or patch for Dead by Daylight in the form of playable characters, and that will come in the form of Pyramid Head and Cheryl Mason, also known as Heather. And that will come in the next chapter in the multiplayer horror game, which is on the PC, and that will come to consoles and PC actually on June 16th. There'll be a new map based on Silent Hill's Midwich Elementary School, and that information comes from Games Radar. Which I think is very interesting. Not exactly what we were hoping for. We were hoping for a remake or a reboot of it. So I know there's quite a lot of people would really like the Dead by Daylight game. I've seen lots of good things written about that. So what do you make of this, Tabs?
Yeah, I mean, initially you might be disappointed and think, oh, all these rumours of a soft reboot were actually just this. And, as a hardcore fan, it's like, oh, no. But I think there's still room to be hopeful. I mean, I saw another rumour today of, the Ps5 Silent Hill reveal upcoming in, what we'll come on to later in another topic, Rich. So again, there's still rumours abound. And the thing is as well, these characters, or at least Heather or Cheryl Mason, she's actually from Silent Hill 3. So I think the fact that they're leaving space not to kind of tread all over the original and the original game's characters kind of suggests that a soft reboot could still be here, and this could merely be an attempt to raise its profile again, if you like, in the mainstream games industry. Which, if that is the case, it's probably a good shout because it has been out of the spotlight for some time now. But would you agree with that, Rich?
Yeah, I'd not really looked at it like that, but that's actually a really good point. In choosing the characters they've chosen to put to this game, like you say, they've ensured that there's not going to be any toe stepping should anything else come out of the woodwork in terms of more Silent Hill games. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting point you made there, Tabs, and definitely one that we need to be, on the lookout for. And I think with something we're coming up later on, there's possibility in the next couple of weeks we could see something more substantial Silent Hill related. But as always, we're chasing shadows in the gaming industry, so we just don't know.
This is it. Shall I take us away, Rich?
Take us away. Topic? Come on.
Right. So the next title's headed Games Industry in Bloom. So really, we just wanted to report on the fact that pulling some market research data from the NPD group, record sales and massive levels of engagement have been noted in April and May in the games industry. So April being another massive month, with sales totaling $1.5 billion,
wow.
73% higher than last year and besting the previous record for the month in 2008. Nintendo Animal Crossing, as well, as we know, is hugely popular, is currently selling a staggering 13.4 million copies in its first 6 weeks of launch. Wow. And then also a mention to Final Fantasy VII Remake, Square Enix, of course. It's become the top game in April. So yeah, really just to kind of, I suppose, celebrate, at least in one breath, the fact that the games industry is obviously doing very well, which is good for an industry we love and obviously follow closely. It's keeping everybody busy and entertained, so you've got to be thankful for that. And it's surely just going to lead to more investment, more output as we move forward. But I suppose the other mention you've got to give is, of course, well, it's a very tragic time globally. As well as celebrating ways to kind of get us through this difficult and challenging time, you can't ignore the tragedy out there. And I mean, we just pulled up some figures, but there's globally, I think, at least when we pulled this, it was 339,000 reported deaths. So yeah, glass half full, glass half empty, depending how you look at it. But at least we can be thankful that games are providing something of a distraction at this difficult time. Any thoughts from you on that, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I think the trouble with our current situation, and that's a global current situation, is there's lots of bad news stories, unfortunately, and one of those is the tragedy that is, over 330,000 people have lost their lives to this, global pandemic. But if you want to see some green shoots, I guess some slightly better news stories out of this, well, people having more time on their hands, having more time at home because they're isolating, because they're away from people, well, they've taken to gaming, and maybe that's introduced new people to gaming. Maybe it's caused people that have gone away from gaming to come back to gaming and go, actually, I will buy Animal Crossing, or Final Fantasy VII. I played the original. I've not been into games since then. Maybe I'll buy Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, looking on the brighter side of things, on what is just a terrible time at the minute, we can hope that this will invigorate the games industry more and cause more people to be excited about games and to come, because it is a big year for games this year, especially with the introduction of next-gen consoles, and there are things to be excited about coming months and weeks.
I think that's spot on, Rich. Obviously we can't ignore the tragedy, the seriousness of things going on, and we must all do our best to support everybody in the situation. Solidarity is key, but at the same time, it helps us not to get bogged down in things if we focus on positives like this. So, very well put.
Absolutely. So, moving on, yesterday, as most of you know, when we film this, we film it on a Thursday, drop it on a Friday. Yesterday, there was a 23 odd minutes off the top of my head, state of play on The Last of Us Part 2, and I have to say I was quite blown away by it. It was lots of informative things. There was bits and bobs about the story, nothing too in depth about what we're going to see. They sort of detailed little bits and pieces about where the game will take place and sort of where it sits. Spoke about potential like story, not spoilers, but like information about what might have happened in the story, but they were very broad brush. And then this state of play was finished with 8 uninterrupted minutes of new gameplay with stealth, swimming, crafting, There was even Hotline Miami on PlayStation Vita before someone.
We think.
Before someone saw their tragic end. And I have to say, the person who was controlling the gameplay, 8 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay, I have to say I thought they were extremely good at the game. But yeah, so the game is going to be set, obviously, with Ellie. We know that she's the main character. She's going to be picking her way through Seattle, which is currently occupied by Washington Liberation Front, and they don't like her being there. But Ellie doesn't either, and she's literally only there to find some woman called Nora, and we don't know where she fits in the story at the moment. It seemed to me like they hinted.
A revenge mission.
Well, it seemed to me like they hinted that she was the doctor that was going to perform the procedure on her at the end of the first game. That was the sort of vibe I was getting. It's like she knew who she was, and there was a reason why. But obviously, I don't know that. That was just me suggesting. What do you make of this 20-odd minutes of Last of Us 2?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it, mate. Apart from the streaming quality, which might be a local issue on my end, it certainly looked great. And as you say, some of the gameplay mechanics there. The water itself, I was really impressed by.
Really. That's what I said. I texted
performing
you.
as she moved around. Yeah, you did text me on WhatsApp, didn't you? And yeah, I just thought it was well put together. It was a tantalising piece of video. I think essentially they're saying, aren't they? There's a time of peace where Ellie has established relationships with new people. She's living independently, and then seemingly that all went wrong. Some cataclysmic event, at least in her world.
Yeah, they sort of suggested something dramatic happens, don't they? That like flips the world on its head for Laura.
And seemingly, then I suppose she's on this revenge mission / probably discovering the truth, because surely, spoiler warning for the last game, surely we're going to track her kind of getting to the truth of Joel's deception, basically, at the end of the last game, and the fact that he essentially destroyed mankind's hope of reverse engineering, quite brutally, the vaccine or a potential treatment for the virus of the infection.
I mean, I'm spitballing here, but is it potential that she's seeking out this Nora, if she is the doctor that was going to perform that procedure, to ask her what really happened at the end? Obviously, Joel's spun her a yarn of what he said happens. Is that possibly? I don't know, I'm spitballing.
No, absolutely. And then obviously if she finds that out, that's going to really cause a ruckus in her psyche, isn't it? And potentially the revenge mission could turn on Joel. But we're going to have to see, aren't we? But either way, I was impressed by it. I mean, Rich, as someone who's been on the fence about buying it, where do you sit now after that?
To be honest, I thought it looked amazing. I have real concerns about how difficult it looks. Like, the person playing the game made it look so easy. But there's so many mechanics going on at one time. It really made me think, But yeah, I think I'm sort of more swayed towards getting it now. But yeah, good. I would just like to say something I thought was really, really interesting, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting how people play this game. Is now the introduction of these this fraction of people, the Washington Liberation Front. Well, they appear in certain sections with the infected. And there seemed to be a suggestion that you could sort of like pitch their one against the other. So you could maybe make some noise that alerts the infected
that was cool.
for the Washington Liberation Front, and then they would have a battle off, and that would sort of ease your path through the game. So I thought, actually, there's going to be some really cool dynamics going on here, and you're going to see much different playthroughs from different people.
That redefines the concept of crowd control, doesn't it, in these sorts of games? And like you say, it's probably going to pay to think about situations before you just bowl in all guns blazing. So, no, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. There was one more thing. Yes, of course, Rich. As we both love dogs, I was a bit sad to see that a dog appeared to get killed in the trailer.
Seemingly got fired.
Burned. Some sort of Molotov cocktail. I'm going to, try and master my playthrough without killing any dogs. That's what I'm going to set myself.
I'll just say that you don't have the same emotional connection to the zombie dogs in Resident Evil. You're quite happy to kill them.
Well, I don't know. They look pretty horrible, don't they? And they are undead, Rich. Their souls have gone.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough.
But these ones are fully alive, and it's just the whole personality, isn't it? It's the game.
Yeah.
You hear at one point, I think they go Charlotte after one of the Liberation Front's members is killed by Ellie.
Yeah. Mm.
And if they start doing that with dogs as well, like Rover, I'm just going to be torn up inside. I can't take it.
Right.
Anyway, enough banging on about that.
But in case it's not absolutely obvious, our excitement went up a notch when we saw this 23-minute state of play.
Yeah, I'm keen to tune in. June the 19th, is it?
That's it, mate. Yeah.
Please.
Right. Take us away.
So, let me move it on. Next topic. So, PS5 reveal firming up. So, of course, we reported on this last week. Been dribbling out from Jason Schreier, from Jeff Grubb of Venture Beat, I think it is. So essentially, it's all but seemingly confirmed. All of the big YouTubers, influencers are picking this up, and it seems like Sony's planning a PS5 reveal event for June the 3rd. Again, we picked this up from VentureBeat. So according to sources familiar with the company's plans, and Bloomberg have also corroborated this separately, we're expecting this reveal, which is probably going to look like a gameplay footage from a number of games, because they're suggesting Sony have learned from Microsoft's slight boo-boo with that one. Although they're not going to reveal every single detail about the console and perhaps, a deep dive on games, I think we can expect some sort of a show reel of some of their bigger titles, some actual in-game footage running on the hardware in a traditional sense. And yeah, they mention here that there's a state of play that's probably going to go more in detail, scheduled for early August time. So yeah, very exciting news, Rich. I think it's something I'm definitely ready for. I hope they get the tone right. I mean, no offense to Mark Cerny on the last kind of tech dive, but I think we need something that really needs to be a bit more E3 like, a bit more glamorous, a bit more of a fanfare around it. But what do you say, sir?
So at this point, this is so like everybody is saying this is going to happen. So at this point, we may as well just say we'll talk about the conference next BA News show.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
it's
this is
chewing, isn't it?
But what I'd like to see, and I'm sure you're the same, I'd like to see what the console's going to look like. I'd love to see a price reveal, but I think they're going to hedge their bets on that. I think they're going to go, here's what it looks like maybe, and here's an amazing games reel to like whet your appetite, ready to come. And like I say, I'd like to see a glossy, highly polished like state of play that is, really showcases what the PS5 is going to be and how it's going to work and what it's going to do.
This is it. We want them to seize the opportunity, that kind of space left from Microsoft, to really hit us with some, gritty, beautiful gameplay of the next year of PlayStation games, and preferably with a good few from PlayStation Studio as well. And I think that will go a long way to, recapturing the imagination of gamers everywhere that have probably been a bit dissatisfied with the next gen rollout so far. And of course, we should mention, as Rich, I think Microsoft have actually launched the pre-order website for the Xbox Series X.
Oh, okay.
With rumours the price could be incoming on that, and the rumours are focusing around the fact they're going to undercut Sony. So like you say, it will be interesting to see if, how that kind of plays out. I'm sure Sony or Microsoft both might have a couple of ideas in mind, and they're just waiting for who's going to go first before they... This
is the thing. Is this like a week before release they go, right, this is the price, because they daren't tell the other one what the price is going to be? Someone's got to go first, haven't they?
Sony have definitely been playing the waiting game throughout this whole next-gen build-up, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've been letting Microsoft go first, I suppose, hoping to just react, gazump them, watch them make errors and mic drop in response. So, let's hope. I'd like to see everybody thrive in the industry, but I suppose I'm probably almost certainly going to get a PS5 and not an Xbox Series X, so I'm a little bit biased, I can't lie.
Yeah, and I'm sort of the same. I've historically been a PlayStation man, so I'm like into all of the PlayStation franchises. Not that I don't like the Xbox, it's an incredible console, and some of the games on it are amazing. The Gears of War and lots of the games.
Halo.
Yeah, Halo, another great game. But unfortunately, most of the games, the big games for Microsoft, the games that I wouldn't play. So that sort of sways me towards PlayStation. But yeah, really excited for that. I hope that comes to force and we can get our pre-orders in so we can get them day one. But anyway, let's move this on. So
to some other interesting news, Rich, that could end up, well, the way it's being presented here, stealing the show.
I mean, what is this? So basically, technical journalist Zenji Nishikawa, I would say,
beautifully done, I would say,
mentioned during a live stream on May the 26th that his column in next week's Famitsu magazine includes revolutionary, and I'll just repeat that, revolutionary news as big as the Wired PS5 exclusive article. And if you remember that was one that I think it spoke about the speed of the SSD and stuff and just touched on a few little bits about the PS5 that really piqued everyone's interest for what the PS5 was going to be.
And I think that what they're trying to say there is that took the industry by surprise, didn't it? That Sony chose Wired to kind of do a little Mark Cerny interview to leak some of the, fundamental details of the PS5. It was just so unconventional, I suppose. So yeah, carry on.
But this gentleman, he has basically has a weekly column in the Famitsu magazine about hardware and software specs. And he said it's going to be a super exclusive scoop, and this is going to go live on June the 4th. And he said a game maker that everyone loves, and then I think at some point later on it slipped that he said Sega.
I mean, we got this from DualShock as the article, and I can't remember exactly how, but there was some allusion to. He alluded to the fact that it might be Sega. So I think I sent you a text earlier today, Rich, saying, "What do you think of a Dreamcast 2, mate?"
And my answer to that was, why would they? They're so far out of the games console market at this point, and they're suddenly going to go, "Oh, we've developed this," because it must cost multi-millions of pounds to develop next-gen consoles. "Oh, we've put this console together, and we're going to release it to fight along the lines of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X." I just don't see that. I just can't see that happening. It will be so far away from what they've done for the last however many years. But I did say on the back of that, the most likely thing that they would do is a Dreamcast Mini.
Yeah, I think a couple of things from me. Could they try and compete with Nintendo in the handheld space? Okay. So kind of start a slightly smaller scale rather than going for a large home console, as you say, massive amounts of millions of pounds, billions of pounds potentially of investment to get something like that up and running.
And actually, there's they have done handheld console before, specifically a Game Gear.
Yeah, there's precedent there. I mean, could they be teaming up with someone like Microsoft in terms of cloud gaming or even Stadia? I mean, there's a lot of possible things that could happen. But yeah, I do like your idea. We've seen how well some of the kind of mini consoles have sold. Dreamcast has certainly got a big following.
I mean, I'll be all over that if that comes. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'd absolutely.
And I tell you, I guarantee one of our friends will be all over that as well.
Yeah, he thinks the golden era of video games died with the Dreamcast. Pretty much his sentiments. But no, I mean, it's going to be an interesting.
I mean, next week is going to be a showstopper by the sounds of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we could have a bountiful BA News show prep for you. Maybe we'll have to turn it into an hour-long episode, Rich, at this rate.
Excellent. Right, so that basically concludes this week's news. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give us a like down below and give us a subscribe. As always, if you've got anything you want to chat to us about, drop us a comment. We're always keen to engage with you guys that are watching. And I think that's it for this week. Another one for the archive.
Stamped and completed.